Well, everyone, it is time for us to go and take a look at the M5 iPad Pro and compare it against the M5 MacBook Pro and see which particular device is the better one for you. Now, this is a very interesting one because these two are very different than one another, but they're also very similar because they share a similar chipset. However, it's always fun to compare an iPad and a MacBook because they are so different. They share some stuff, but for the most part, their use cases are very, very different. And for one, I have a strong opinion on which one I almost always recommend buying over the other one. So if you want to go ahead and pick up either one of these devices throughout the whole entire video, the entirety of this video, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, let's go and take a look at the outside of both of them. With an iPad, you basically have the display on the front side, and then you have a camera. You have like a kind of like an iPhone. It's like a bigger iPhone. I think we all know this by now, but it's not just a bigger iPhone. It's a very good device. The front side of the M5 iPad Pro, it comes out in two different sizes, either the 11-inch model or the 13-inch model. So you can either get them in a smaller or bigger size. I actually like the smaller size of these things, but you can also swing for the bigger size. The 11-inch model is going to be giving you a very good display. The Ultra Retina XDR display is on both ProMotion technology, you're getting True Tone, anti-reflective coating, and if you get the 1 or 2 terabyte models, you actually do end up getting nano texture inside of that display, which is amazing. That type of panel on that iPad Pro is very good. It's a beautiful type of panel, and that is something that's really nice. And because it's a touchscreen, you can interact with everything on the board itself, on the display itself, and that is a very nice thing in and of itself. With the M5 MacBook Pro, this one is going to be a little bit of a different situation. So this is obviously a laptop. So you unfold it and then you get into the display itself. Now, the display on the M5 MacBook Pro, there's really only one option of the M5 MacBook Pro's display, and that is the 14-inch model. For some reason, from what I can see, Apple hasn't made that 16-inch model just yet. They will probably end up making it soon, but the 14-inch model comes out in one size. Obviously, there's not a higher screen model just yet, but there will be one in the future. The display itself is a 14.2-inch liquid retina display. This is a very good display too. This is an awesome display. It gets fairly bright. You have ProMotion inside of the display itself. I would probably argue that the iPad is kind of a little bit of a nicer display, but I still think the M5, MacBook Pro still looks very good, and I feel like if you're going to go through and pick up a panel, this is a very good option without a doubt. Now, looking around at the devices, this is where things start getting a little bit more peculiar. The iPad Pros, they're much thinner, more portable devices. They're just very, very portable, but you are getting a limited type of experience with I/O. You get one Thunderbolt port on the bottom of these iPads. Now, it's still a Thunderbolt port. You can still dock it up to a display. You can still dock it up to like a, dongle if you need to add more ports, but you are going to be a little limited for, how many things you can connect to it. Even if you want to charge it while you're using it, unless you get a dock that supports it or you plug it into a monitor then subsequently has more ports, you're going to be a little limited when it kind of comes down to it. Whereas with a MacBook, you're getting multiple ports. You're getting a MagSafe charger, 3 Thunderbolt ports, SD card slot, HDMI port. You're getting a lot more I/O inside of something like a MacBook than from something like an iPad. Now, if that doesn't sound like a big deal to you, then an iPad's going to be fine. But if that already sounds like something that could be annoying, if you have to connect to multiple things, then something like a MacBook might end up swaying you into that direction. You're also getting a full-size keyboard on the MacBook and a trackpad. It's very nice. I love having it. It's right there. You get front-facing speakers. The iPad Pro, the M5 model, does give you, I think, a nicer type of speaker layout because you're getting these quad speakers all throughout, and that is something that's actually very nice. And you are getting Face ID inside of an iPad. MacBooks still do not have Face ID, so that is kind of a little bit of a letdown for MacBooks. I'm surprised they still haven't threw it on there yet. With iPads, you already have it. You've been having that for like 7 years now. So that is kind of another one of those things. But from a portability aspect, the iPad does kind of win, right? It's much smaller, it's sleeker. You can toss it into a book bag and kind of move on. Whereas with the MacBook, it is a little bit more of a bigger type of device. It's not as portable. One other thing, an iPad, like an iPad Pro M5 model, it does support the Apple Pencil. So if you're somebody who actually wants to use an Apple Pencil, well, you can actually go through and use an Apple Pencil Pro or Apple Pencil 2 or whichever ones are supported inside of your M5 iPad Pro. So that is something that's actually very nice there. It's very nice to be able to go through and have that type of capability. And I do think if you're going to go through and pick up an iPad, that right there, it is a very nice thing. With the other MacBook, I mean, you do get a lot of accessories that are supported. It's just the Apple Pencil is just not supported with a MacBook. So kind of keep that in mind as it kind of comes down to it. One other massive aspect here is the price tag. The base model M5 iPad Pro cost $1,000, so $999. With the M5 MacBook Pro, this one costs $1,599 starting base model. Now, it is, I would say, it's more expensive. It's 60% more expensive on an M5 MacBook Pro. But for me personally, my use case starts with a MacBook. I very rarely use my iPad. I have iPads. I just don't use them that much because my MacBook does everything for me. I do wish my MacBook had a touchscreen, and I wish my MacBook supported Apple Pencil. I think that would be sick. However, I feel like my M5 MacBook Pro or just any MacBook Pro, my M1 Pro MacBook Pro that I still use, these are so fast. These are very, very fast MacBooks, and I still have a really good time with these particular devices. Both these devices support Apple Intelligence if that's important to you. They both have the same chipset, so it's not like you're getting one that's like substantially way faster than the other one. The RAM is a little bit different depending on the model. You can spec out an iPad, an M5 MacBook Pro pretty high in terms of RAM and memory and stuff like that. But the thing to remember here is that they're running on two different software versions. You have macOS on MacBook and you have iPadOS on iPads. The thing to remember here is that with something like a MacBook, because of its software version, because of the way you're able to use that particular software, I think you're going to be able to get a better type of workflow for your desktop applications, right? If you are already familiar with iPads and you're already having a good time with your workflow, the M5 iPad Pro is a no-brainer. But if you're currently on a desktop, if you use a Windows PC or a Mac, or if you use both a Mac and iPad, if you find yourself using your MacBook more, or if you end up trying to use more desktop level applications, a MacBook is going to be the one I would recommend buying. If you're a student in college and you don't really need to use desktop level apps, or if you're a working professional and you don't really seem to be using a lot of desktop applications all the time, then an iPad is totally fine. But if you're not really too sure and you're about to get into college, or you're about to get into you're about to become a working professional, and you're trying to go through and see which one is the best one for you, a MacBook is definitely the way to go. In industry and even in universities, MacBooks typically are the ones that people gravitate towards, or laptops, PCs. Those are the ones people end up using. And if you're in class or if you're in your work and they tell you to download this tool and it doesn't run on your iPad, then that could be a little bit of an annoyance. But the thing I will tell you, in my personal opinion, if I'm about to go through and pick up one of these types of devices, I'm pretty much almost always going to be recommending a MacBook. The MacBook is a no-brainer. That is such a good device, and that's the one I'd probably recommend a vast majority of users to go ahead and buy. An iPad I think is great. I think it was really good at the time, but I do think if you're in the market, it makes a lot more sense to go ahead and buy an M5 MacBook Pro than buying something like an M5 iPad Pro, at least in my personal opinion. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.